Alright, sige, let's start. It's already 7:40. Okay, habol na lang siguro yung iba. Okay, good morning class and again welcome to this online meeting. Now, for today's session, okay, we will be moving on from our previous na mga topics. So, ano nga yung mga pinag-usapan na natin class? Mga topics natin previously?
Kirchhoff's law, sir.
Okay, we talked about Kirchhoff's law. Okay, Kirchhoff's laws and then ano pa class? Ano pa yung mga napag-usapan natin last time?
Ohm's law, sir.
Ohm's law, yes, that's correct. Okay, so we also talked about Ohm's law, the relationship between voltage, current, and resistance. What about the connections? Ano yung mga napag-aralan na natin na connections?
Parallel and series.
Series connection.
Yun, okay.
Parallel
Lumanas
connection.
and okay. Series and parallel connections. So, those are the things, class, na napag-aralan na natin. Now, we take this a notch further or i-level up tayo ngayon. Okay? We now go into the next topic. Now, itong topic na to, class, is still connected. Okay? Still connected to our previous na mga lessons. Now, to start with our discussion this morning, okay, let me ask you a question. Okay? So, before going to this class today, okay, before going to this online meeting, okay, what are the things, class, that you did before attending this class?
One, sir, mata.
Okay. Uy, ni matag sa'yo. So, that's one. How about the others? Ano pa, class?
Naligo, sir. Nagkaog breakfast.
Yun, okay. So, naligo, nagkaog breakfast. How about the others?
Nahinlo, sir.
Nanghinlo, okay. Meron pa ba? Do you want to add something?
Mag-prepare, sir. Mag-prepare para sa online class.
Medalya, okay. Mag-prepare para sa online class. Now, let me just take, class, one action that you did, no? So, nanghinlo, nag-prepare sa online class, naligo, nanglimpyo. So, let me just take from what Lumanas has shared, okay? Sabi niya, nag-breakfast. If I may ask you, class, why do you think kailangan nating kumain ng breakfast?
Para mo gana og maayo ang atong cancer utok.
Alright? Yes, for our brain, para gumana yung atong utok, no? So, ano pa?
Para na energy, sir.
Yun, okay. So, sabi ni Alinsob, sir, para meron tayong energy. So, that's actually connected to what your classmate kanina talked about. Para gumana ang utak or para may energy. Okay, so basically, class, kung i-connect natin yan sa lesson natin ngayon, okay, we need to eat yung breakfast for us to have the energy, okay, to perform our work for the day. For example, as your teacher, my work is to deliver classroom instruction, and for you as the student, your work is to be able to do the things, mga activities natin. Okay? So basically, that's the reason behind eat breakfast, to have energy for us to be able to perform work. So moving on to our lesson this morning, okay? On the screen shown are two pictures, pictures A and picture B. Okay? Picture A, we have a so he is pushing against a wall. Okay? And then the second person B. So we have this box over here. And then upon applying this force, he is able to move the box from here to here. Okay? Now there is this question. Who is doing more work? So let's move on to our definition of work. Okay? So here we have the definition of work. Anybody who can read this one?
Ako na lang.
Sige, go ahead.
Work is defined as the product of net force acting on the body and distance moves in the direction of force.
Okay, so that's the definition. No? Work is defined as the product. Pag sinabi nating product, class, what's the operation involved? Is it plus, minus, times, divide?
Times, sir.
Okay, it's multiplication. Okay?
Times, sir.
So work is defined daw as the product. So we will be multiplying as the product of the net force acting on a body and the distance moved in the direction of the force. Okay, so yan daw yung definition ng work. Na it is the product of the force acting on a body times the distance moved in the direction of the force. Okay? Now going back, class, on this particular illustrations, person A and person B. Again, let me ask you. Nandyan yung may gumagawa ng more work and what's the reason behind? So again, class,
B, sir.
sige, alinsob. B. Bakit B alinsob?
Makaya ra man niya kuan sir, makaya ra niya tulak sir ba, so daghan siya box nga magkuan sir, trabaho sir, daghan siya ana sir ba.
Dagan siya box nga makaya rin niyag tulak, so dagan siya box nga matulak. Okay? So sige. How about the others?
B Japan sir.
B gihapon. Sige, lumanas. Bakit B?
Kay nagamit ang siya force sir, so kung asang force na hindi ko answer is dito siya na direction mo adto ang isa ka box.
Okay.
So by using the force.
What about for A pala? May force sa A, kaso
Naay
Na,
force sir, pero
Hindi
ma-move, sir.
direction na
Ay for sir
matuloan.
pero way work.
ano yon, Lubitos?
Dili mo move, sir, ang wall.
Dili mo move ang wall. Okay, so going back to the definition, class, so we have this definition, no? So the wall does not move. Okay? So if we are applying force, bisan pag grabe na kay imong tinulak, no? But still the object that you are pushing, the wall, does not move. Okay? It does not budge or it does not move in the direction of the force, then however large the force is, times the distance traveled. What's the distance traveled for picture A? What's the value of the distance traveled by the wall?
Wala, sir.
Wala or in value, anong value niyan? Kung wala,
0.
0, okay? So for example, class, nag-apply tayo ng force na 100 newtons. 100 times 0. What will happen to the work?
0, sir.
Wala, sir.
0, no? Okay? Kahit na 1 million newtons pa, class, yung force natin, 1 million newtons times 0, the work will still be, okay? Still 0. Okay? Since hindi nag-move yung ating tinutulak na bagay. Going back to the illustration kanina, person B, okay, actually is able to push this one. Okay, so ito yung box. By applying force, na move niya. So there is this particular distance. Okay? So we have this particular distance over here. So force times the distance. So we have actually work here. There's actually work done. We have force times this particular distance na value, kahit na 3 meters lang yan, 3 meters times the force, then we have our work. So to answer that question, okay, yung person B, yung merong work in this particular illustration. So we have this, another example, no? So how much work is done in lifting a 10 kilogram box 1.5 meters off the floor? Okay? Now we have the solution here. So we have the force is equal to mass times acceleration. So class, itong ano na to, this is more on physics, no? So I will not dili na lang nato balikan tong mga formulas, but we'll just discuss it. Pasadahan lang nato ni siya because meron tayong target na mga formulas later on relating to voltage and current. So ito more on good to know na lang ito ng mga equations, okay? In this particular case, we have force is equal to mass times acceleration. Okay, yung mass natin is 10 kilograms. So this one. And yung acceleration natin due to gravity is 9.8 meter per second squared. So we have now our weight or yung ating force. Okay, so itong force at saka weight, these are just interchangeable. Okay, so 10 times 9.8, that will be 98. Okay, 98 kilogram meter per second squared or newtons. Okay, na yung 98 newtons or i-round off niya diri, no? Gihimo niyang 100. Okay? I-multiply it with the distance traveled off the floor. So 100 newtons times 1.5 meters, that will be 100 150. Okay? 100 times 1.5, that's 150. the Newton times meter. That will be Newton meter. And then this Newton meter class, itong quantity na to, this is just the same with the unit na, okay, this capital letter J, or what we call the unit na joule. Okay? So take note of that, na yung work is, yung formula niya, force times distance. Yung force may unit na Newton, yung distance may unit na meter. When we multiply the two, Newton times meter, we get the term Newton meter. And this Newton meter is just equivalent to the unit na joule. Now again, class, this person, okay, for him to be able to do work, okay, he needs what?
Energy, sir.
Okay, yun. Okay, that's hirap i-construct ng tanong, class, na, but that's actually what we're driving at. Okay, that we need the energy. This person needs energy for him to perform the work of lifting the box. You see the connection? Okay? So now, let's now proceed with energy. Ano ba yung ibig sabihin ng energy? Energy is defined as the ability to do work. Anything that has the ability to do work. Okay, meaning, class, ng ability to do work, anything nga kayang mag-provide ng force, and by the applying of that force, ma-move niya ang isa ka butang at a certain distance, then that particular thing has energy. Okay, so for example, dito sa screen, okay, we have here this brick. Okay, so for example, may height, no? Na siya gitas-on diri, class, and we have this nail. Okay, lansang. And then, so supposing that this brick, okay, kining nga brick, mahulog, class, what will happen to this nail over here?
Sterile lang gapon ng nail, sir.
Ano yun, Rizada?
Move, sir.
Okay, Lubitos, yes, okay, no? So if this particular brick is of considerable distance or height from this nail, so this will actually move. Okay, move niya siya pa ilalom, indicating that there is a distance moved in parallel with the force. So in this case, we have here this brick applying force to this nail, and this nail from here, possible dito na yan. Okay, after na matulak, no, ng brick, so there is an applied force, and there is this particular distance. Okay, so meaning this brick has actually what we call an energy, because it is able to do work. It is able to apply force, and by the application of that force, it is able to move an object at a certain distance. Okay, so because of that characteristic na itong brick na ito, okay, was able to apply force and move the object na in-applyan niya ng force at a certain distance. So it is able to do work, so it has what we call energy. Or specifically, class, this brick has potential energy. Okay, so kaya it is able to push the nail, no, pababa. Now we have this another example here. Dito sa gilid, we have this hand carrying a hammer, and this hammer is exerting a force towards this nail pa rin. So since this nail will actually be moved pailalim, so still we have force, and we have this, okay, we have this distance. Okay, so since this hand is able to do work, okay, so this particular person, in this case the person who is the owner of this hand, has what we call energy. Or in this case, since this is movement, so this is kinetic energy naman. So nasundan, class, yung connection between work and energy.
Yes, sir.
Okay? Yun
Yes,
yung
sir.
ating anything that is able to do work, anything that is able to apply force, and then that the object applied, yung object na in-apply natin ng force is nag-move, then there is work involved, okay? Then that, the, yung bagay that made it possible has what we call the energy. Okay? Now, so we have here what we call the law of conservation of energy. Okay?
Ang energy lang, sir.
Yes, yung energy cannot be. Sige.
Energy cannot be created or destroyed. May be transferred from one form to another, but the total amount of energy in a system remains constant.
Okay, so that's the law of conservation of energy. So thank you, Uy. So ibig lang sabihin yan, class, is if you have energy, okay, so for example, yung example natin kanina na martilyo, no? So the person has energy. The moment na in-apply niya yung energy na yun, class, sa pako, okay, that energy is passed from the person towards the nail. Saan niya, kung unsa to iyang gina martilyo, class, no? So there is a transfer of energy. So the energy from the person papunta doon sa nail, that's why it is pushed ilalom. Okay? So there is movement on that particular nail. So there is transfer of energy from the person papunta doon sa nail. Okay? So basically, pag binalikan natin yung example natin kanina, you have this person. So this person has, itong taong to actually has the energy. That is why it's able to perform the work. Yung lifting. The lifting of this box 1.5 meters above the ground, that is the work. And he is able to do that because this person has the energy. Okay? But in the real world nowadays, class, so this is more on, kung tao yung gumagawa, this is more on old school, or yun yung dati-dati pa, okay, na hard labor yung ginagawa natin. But today, lifting objects, particularly not just boxes, no, but people. For example, yung elevator. Okay, yung elevator, okay, it's actually lifting objects from one point, for example, from level ground to a certain floor. For example, fifth floor. Okay, so that particular elevator, class, okay, has actually what we call, okay, the energy. Okay, it's able to perform, it's able to lift people. For example, this is the person. It's able to lift people up from one point to a certain floor because it has what we call the energy, the ability to do work. Now, considering an elevator, okay, what is the source of that elevator's energy? For example, kasi kung tao, nabanggit natin kanina, we need to eat breakfast or we need to have food intake. So yung food na yon that will be our energy, no? But what about for an elevator, class? What's the source of its energy?
Electricity, sir.
Okay? So dyan na papasok yung ating electro technology or electro one. Okay? Na certain machines actually requires energy. And that specific energy, class, is electrical energy. Okay? And if we connect that to our previous lessons, class, to voltage, okay, voltage, current, and resistance, no? So these are the three primary electrical terms used in electricity or electrotechnology. Now, if I will ask you, class, saan dyan yung electromotive force? Voltage, current, or resistance? Which of the three electrical quantities is the electromotive force? Yung ating electromotive force is actually the voltage. Okay? This is the electromotive The keyword is electromotive force. Okay? So it pushes. Okay? Since it is a force, it pushes something. Now, what do you think is being pushed by the voltage? Ano yung tinutulak niya sa circuit?
Current.
Is it the current?
Ang electrons, sir.
Yun, okay, very good. So sabi ni Lumanas, the one that is being pushed, okay, or the one that is applied an electromotive force upon is the electrons. And because of that push, class, okay, so meaning if we apply that force to the electrons, okay, and those electrons move a certain distance within our circuit, then there is what we call, anong nangyayari, class?
I work na tabo, sir.
Okay, very good. Okay, so yun yung hinintay ko na kuan. Hinintay natin na sagot, no? So since there is an applied force, the voltage is applying force to the electrons and the electrons move a certain distance, then there is work that is being done in our circuit. Kaya nga, class, if so there is force and these electrons moved a certain distance, then there is work. If these electrons flow, we now call that, what do we call that? When there is flow of electrons. Is it voltage, current, resistance?
Current, sir.
It's actually,
Current,
okay,
sir.
it's actually now the current. But again, the important thing here, class, na maano natin is that there is a connection from the start, no, ng discussions natin. So the machines, okay, yung mga electrical machineries natin actually requires energy in the form of electrical energy. And that electrical energy, okay, meron niyang voltage. Itong voltage na to is our electromotive force. It pushes our electrons. And since there is a push or an application of force in the electrons, and the electrons move, so there is a certain distance, then there is work, okay, that is happening inside our circuit whenever there is current flowing in our circuit. That is why, class, pansin ninyo, pag yung bagay is hindi umaandar, okay, for example, we have a television na hindi umaandar, what do we call that in English? Anong tawag natin dyan? The television is, for example, hindi umaandar yung TV.
Not working.
Working.
Not working. Okay,
Not
so pwede
working.
nating ano dyan. Meaning there is no movement. There is no pushing inside of electrons. Kaya hindi siya gumagana. Okay? It's not working. Bakit? Because, okay, walang continuous flow of electrons. There is, although may voltage, pero, okay, since walang gumagalaw, sabi natin kanina, pag wall yan, pag hindi gumagalaw yung tinutulak natin, then, okay, there's no work involved kung hindi siya gumagalaw in the direction of our force. So, nasundan, so the connection between energy and work. Okay, so that's basically yung two terms na gusto nating i-emphasize dito. So, sa ngayon, yung pinag-usapan lang natin, energy and work, this is just values. Pero yung kung gaano kabilis, okay, gaano kabilis na pini-perform yung work is hindi pa natin yan na-discuss. And the term, class, for that, the rate at which work is done, for example, itong taong to, okay, he is able to lift 1.5 meters. Yung box na yan, na lift niya 1.5 meters above the ground in, sabihin natin, 3 seconds. Okay? Now, there's this another man, same box, nilift niya, pero nilift niya within 1 second lang. Okay? In that case, we can compare the two. It is defined as the rate at which work is done. So yan daw yung rate, no, or speed. Gaano kabilis? Gaano kabilis yung work is done? Yung example nga natin, a box, okay, lifted 1.5 meters above the ground in 3 seconds. Well, another person lifts a box, okay, but yung time it takes for him to lift the box is just 1 second. Okay, so there is a difference in power. So yan yung ating definition now. The formula, class, for power it is equal to work divided by time. So sabi natin kanina, the unit for work is joule or Newton meter. And then the unit for time, what do you think is the unit for time, class?
Second, sir.
Yun, okay? It's actually seconds. Okay, so joule per second. So joule per second, class, or in symbols, that is joule per second. Okay? So this unit, kung ang joule kanina is Newton meter, sabi natin kanina, pag ang Newton, yung force, i-times natin sa distance, Newton times meter, that's the unit for joule. Now, this joule per second, okay, this is also, meron din itong equivalent na unit. And this is equivalent, class, to the unit na, you have any idea? Okay, this joule per second is actually equivalent to the unit na yung unit na watt. So if you are able to perform work force times distance for a period of time, you have this particular unit, joule per second, which is equivalent to watts. So that's the unit, okay, joule per second or watt. Now, in this case, so masasabi na natin na we are nearing to the electrotechnology concept. Kasi kanina, class, yung mga definitions natin ng work, energy, those are more on the physical or physics na definitions, no? But now, we are trying to connect it. Connect na natin sa, tawag nito, dun sa electrotechnology na concept. Okay? Concepts ng watt. Now, if I may ask you, class, saan nyo narinig yung term na watt?
Suga, sir.
Yun, okay? So, sa suga. Now, basically, ano yung ibig sabihin yan?
Ang kakusgon sa hayag, sir.
Kakusgon sa hayag, okay? Pag sinabi nating 10 watts versus 25 watts na suga, okay, or bulb, then we can say that it's more brighter, no? The 25 watt is brighter compared to the 10 watt, okay? Ano pa, class? Ano pa yung implication yan?
Ako ang consume ng energy, sir.
Yun, tataas yung inyong energy consumption, di ba? Energy consumption. So right here pa lang, class, nang binanggit niyo yung energy consumption, you are acknowledging that there is something out there that is able to do work. Yung energy na to is actually provided to us by the Soreco, the NECO, okay, the Baulight. Yan yung energy utility companies. Sila yung nagpo-provide sa atin. They are the ones delivering the energy us for our devices to work, for our electrical devices to work, whether it's television, cell phone, okay? We are consuming energy because they are able to, okay, they have the ability, yung ano na yun, the power plants they have the ability to do work, okay, for our devices to do work, okay? Yung energy consumption, meron tong unit, class. The unit for energy consumption is ano, class? Based on your idea or based on your experience. Ano yung unit ng energy consumption?
Kilowatt hour, sir.
Yun, okay? Very good. It's actually kilowatt hour. Kilowatt hour. Now, sabi natin kanina, yung watt is joule per second, di ba? So meaning, this is just joule per second. This is the kilowatt. Now, yung hour, class, is pwede actually natin yung i-convert into seconds, di ba? 1 hour is 3,600 seconds. Meaning, if this hour, so kilowatt is kilojoule per second, yung hour is seconds, this will just cancel out, leaving us with the unit na kilojoule. Kaya siya tinawag, class, energy consumption, because the unit na kilojoule or joule is a unit of energy, a unit of work. So, meron tayong illustration dito. Which person below does more work? Tingin ninyo. Andyan sa dalawa. Is it on the left or on the right?
Right, sir?
Right.
Okay, it's on the right. Bakit on the right?
Dagan man siya, sir.
Mabilis ka,
Mas
sir.
tangkasog siya, sir.
Nidagan,
Paspas
Nagkuhan
yung
siya.
lihok, sir.
paspas iyang lihok. Ano pa?
Effort.
Sir, +1 ang iya nga kaning kuan gina-stepan sa hagdanan.
Yun, okay. So, +1 iyang gina-estipan sa hagdanan. This one, class. Ito, isang kuan lang, step. Siya, class, tigda dalawa. Okay, so we said kanina that work is equal to force times the distance, no? So, probably, she is exerting more force since medyo, ano siya, padagan siya, class, no? And then, on that direction of the force, mas taas yung distance nga gi-cover, 2 steps. Unlike dito na kalma lang, so probably lower yung force and then yung distance is also lower. Okay? So that's why yung work nito is also lower. Okay? Which person has greater power? So work, power is equal to work divided by time. So sabi natin kanina, higher na yung work nito, itong person na to, then per unit of time, mas mabilis ito compare dito. So, lower time. So, this means that the power here, pangalawang illustration is actually higher. Okay, so, yan lang yung mga implications niyan. Kung mababa yung force, mababa yung distance, mababa din yung work. Mataas yung force na in-exert natin, mataas yung distance na movement, then mataas din yung force, yung work. Okay, and then work divided by lower time, mas mabilis mong nagawa yung isang bagay, then that's an indication of greater power. Okay, so yan yung mga implications nitong ano na to. Okay lang tayo? So that's the connection, class, between work, energy, and power. So if I will ask you, let's just review, no? Pag sinabing work, ano yan? Ano yung ibig sabihin ng work?
Motion, sir, motion.
Motion, yes, there is emotion involved. What about its definition?
It's defined as the product of the net force acting on the body and the distance moves in the direction of the force.
Okay. So that's the ano, no? That's our definition of work kanina. How about energy?
Ability to do work, sir.
Yun, it's the ability to do work. Anything that has ability to do work, that particular thing or that particular person actually has the energy. Okay? And what about power?
Rate at which work is done.
Okay, it is the rate at which work is done. Kung mas mabilis, mas greater na power. The same work is done ng mas mabilis, then mas greater yung power. Can you cite examples, class? Of things na, for example, dati ganito yung ginagawa natin, then now ganito na. So that indicates, okay, more power on this particular machinery. I'll give you an example, class. So dati, so as you are thinking, no? So dati, class, yung pag-aani, so we live actually near mga palayan, no, or rice field. And dati, every time na harvest season, there are actually people, mga tao na sila ang mangani on that particular rice field. But today, okay, we have already the machineries we call the harvester. Na itong harvester na to, same work na pag-aani, pero mas mabilis compared to people. So if we compare the power behind people doing it or persons doing it na pag-aani and the power of the particular machine, mas powerful itong ating harvester since it is able to do the work at a lesser amount of time. Okay? So, can you cite other examples?
Sakyanan, sir. Sakyanan.
Sakyanan, okay. So, sige daw, explain further, uy. Bakit?
Ay, dati itong wala pa yung sakyanan, sir, kay baktas raman to, sir, niya.
Mhm.
Ugay ta maabot sa atong destinasyon.
Alright. But today, no, we are able to go to our certain destinations, okay? Using our certain cars or yung mga jeep natin. Okay, ano pa class? Other
Kanang
examples.
sa
Go ahead.
pagtahi, sir.
Portel, tahi. Sige, bakit?
Sa una, sir, is mano-mano pa, sir, tong duwag wag kakuan sa tong tag-as nga ano. Kalimutan ko sa tawag ato, sir. Then karon, sir, nanay mga sewing machine, sir, mo nang madali na nilang maabot ang magtahi, sir.
All right. Yes, that's an indication of, again, better or greater power. Okay? Ano pa? Sige daw. I'm actually, so maganda to. We are learning. Okay? Any other examples?
Kana magbuhat kag cake, sir.
Yes. Magbuhat og cake. Paano
Sana,
yun
sir, kay
lumanas?
magbasa-basa. Oh. But right now, naa na tay machine na magkuan na lang ka. Butang lang nimo ang ingredients dito sa mixer and then nana imong dough. It's ready to serve. Get the
All right.
oven.
So that's actually I'm not familiar with baking, no. But if there is kuan with that class, if there is already a technology or ingunana nga way, then it's actually better. Okay? Nga ibutang na lang lumanas, butang na lang ang ingredients.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And Korea, sir.
Sa kwan, sir. Harvester sa humay, sir.
At nakuha na natin yan kanina, Ramirez. Pero sige daw. Paano naging harvester?
Nauna, sir. Kay gala pa man, sir.
Tapos ngayon,
Harvester na lang, sir.
yes, yun
Machine
yung
na siya.
yun yung but for you, Ramirez, based on your experience with that particular technology, okay ba siya? Okay ba siya nga naa na tayo ingunana nga technology karon?
Okay,
Yes, sir.
sir.
Kay mas dali man ang pag-harvest, sir. Dili na kayo mahago ang mga tao, sir.
Dili na kayo mahago ang mga tao. What about the disadvantage, class? Can you cite a disadvantage of that?
Kay mawada ng trabaho ang mga kuwanan, sir. Farmer.
Exactly, no? So, daghag mawad-an nga trabaho ng mga farmers. And actually, that's actually what I am observing now. Okay, so dati kasi class, every harvest season, we are actually seeing people, even not from our, kung taga-asa mi, no, for example, diri nga lugar, dili taga diri usahay ang mga ni. Okay, naiuban mga pag mudayo ba from another places, then pupunta lang sa lugar, then the time ano sila nga mga ni ingunana. But today, since meron ng technology, so yun lang yung mga may mga disadvantage and advantage. Now, enough of that class. I'm sure marami pa kayong idea with regards to that, but what we are trying to drive here is that today there are more powerful technologies, and when we say powerful, these are things or these are machines that is able to do the same amount of work for a lesser amount of time. Kasi kung mapansin nyo dito, class, di ba power is work divided by time? Okay? Kapag yung time to do the work is mas lesser, okay, the power becomes larger. Yan yung effect nito. Since nasa denominator yung time, so pag mudako ang ato ang time dire, for example, 10, so 100 divided by 10, that will be 10 for the power. Pero pag gamay lang, kunwari 100 tapos yung time done is 1 second lang, 100 divided by 1, yung power will be 100. Kaya the lesser yung amount of time na magawa yung work, the greater is the power. Inversely proportional. Okay? Yun lang yung ibig sabihin natin. Now, there is a formula, class. Ano lang natin ha. Actually, class, there is a formula, no? Or in connection to our lessons, previous lessons with regards to power. Okay? So the formula, class, is just a brief review. We have this equation last time, no? Na actually hindi yan. Okay, we have the triangle. Naalala nyo pa yung triangle? Wherein dito sa ibabaw, there is a certain letter. Ano nga yung sa ibabaw, class?
Voltage.
It's the voltage or the variable na E. What about here? Ano yung, dito? Variable?
Current, sir.
It's the current. And then dito yung resistance. So this is our mnemonic device nga kapag unknown yung voltage, kunwari di natin alam yung voltage, for example, solving for voltage. So ang mangyayari, tabunan lang nato ning sa ibabaw, so di nato makita ng E. What we will see is just the I and R. And we will know that, since tinabunan natin yung E, it will be voltage equals current times the resistance. So, di ba ganito yung pag-solve natin last time? And then, kapag naman hinanap class is, kunwari, hinanap natin is current, so tabunan lang natin yung current, so mawawala yan. The triangle will become a voltage. Then tabunan na to ang current dire, so we can only see E and R here. So that's why yung formula nito will be I, the current, is equal to voltage divided by resistance. So E over R. So that's the formula, no? Now, the last one is that kapag naman unknown yung resistance, so tabunan natin yung R, ang makikita na lang natin sa triangle will be voltage and the current. That is why, so tinabunan natin yung R, the formula for resistance will be voltage divided by current. So this is our previous na lesson. Okay? Now today, we have another formula. This is now the formula class for power. Okay, what's the formula for power? The formula for power class is same pa rin, we use a triangle. But this time the triangle is dito, instead of E, it will now be P, representing power. And sa ilalim will be the voltage, the current times the voltage. Or in simple terms class, this is, kung mapansin niyo, this is pi. Okay? The power, this power is equal to current times the voltage. Power is equal to current times the voltage. So here class, we have a fan, no? This is atypical pag mga appliances. May mga specifications class. So makikita nyo dito, we have, so as you can see here, meron tayong DC. Sabi na dito, DC 12 volts. So yung supply nito, yung isusupply natin sa kanya is 12 volt na DC power supply. And then, its power rating is actually 20 watts. So yung power niya is 20 watts. Its voltage given is, ilan na? 12 volts. Now, what do you think will be the current flowing through this device? Tingin ninyo class, based on the formula kanina, what will be the current flowing through this? So, pwede natin gamitin yung triangle, no? So, we have the power here, and we have the current and voltage. So, since given yung power, given din yung voltage, so ito yung tabunan nato. Okay? So, actually, the current now will be equal to the power divided by the voltage. This one, power divided by the voltage. So, pila ang current, ani class?
0.66.
1.67,
67, sir.
7 or 1.66. Okay, so this is 1.66 unit. What's the unit?
Ampere.
Ampere, sir.
Ampere. Okay, 1.66 ampere. Okay, so that's our answer for this one. So 1.66 ampere. Actually class, marami kayong appliances sa bahay. All of those appliances, madali lang calculate, no? Yung inyong kwan. For example, hanap kayo ng box ng plancha, yung, di ba, yung mga bago nating mga appliances, may mga boxes yan. Nagilid ng mga boxes na yan, class, nakasulat doon ilang watts yung appliance. And then, alam natin yung voltage, no? Pilay voltage, class, nga ginagamit for your appliances to work.
220?
220, okay? 220 volts. O ganun lang. Meron tayong mga appliances. Kapag alam nyo yung wattage ng appliances nyo, class, then you will be able to calculate the current. Since we already know the standard voltage. Okay? So kung refrigerator nyo, for example lang, is 1,000 watts. So yung 1,000 watts na yun, i-divide nyo sa 220, you'll be able to get the current. Nasundan? Okay? And actually, okay, if you think about it, all your appliances, what's the needed voltage for your appliances? Ilang voltahe? It's always 220, di ba? So meaning, if it is connected, class, in a circuit sa inyong bahay, is it series or parallel ang connection? So, di ba, sinasaksak natin yan. For example, sa isang saksakan, sinaksak natin yung ref, sinaksak natin yung TV, sinaksak natin yung sound system. Okay? What's the connection of that?
Parallel.
What do you think? Why do you think it is parallel?
Ako sir?
Yes, go ahead.
So sir, kung ipton man nimo ang kuan sir, isa sir ang ubang appliances kay dili man madamay sir.
That's actually, no? That's very good, okay? Kung ibto nimo ang isa ka appliance, dili madamay ang uban. Which is actually connected to your previous laboratory activity. You have done already that class, yung laboratory 7 and 8, you'll be able to observe that. Na sa parallel, kahit na ibto na to or tanggalon na to ang isa ka bulb, dili madamay ang pag-function sa ubang bulb. Dili mo taas ang kuryente, okay? Ingon na siya. And another thing, class, bakit parallel is the voltage. Di ba sabi natin, kapag parallel yung connection, constant ang voltahe. Okay, so, ganun yung, unlike sa series na there is voltage division. Okay, so, yan lang yung one. And by doing it, class, yung, di ba, for example, alam natin yung wattage ng inyong appliance, i-divide natin sa 220, malalaman natin yung kuryente. By doing that, you will also be able to calculate yung kailangan ninyo na circuit breaker or kailangan ninyo na fuse para gumana yung inyong system. Kasi yung mga fuse needed niyan is the current rating. So, dili ka pwede mo adto og hardware class, mamalit kag fuse. Okay? Ayo, papalita kog fuse. Kung tanon jud ana sa imong palitan, they will always ask you, pila ang kuryente, no? Sa fuse. What's the ampere rating? Atong fuse, or what's the ampere rating for our circuit breaker? Okay, kung baba ra kayo imuhang fuse, then mubuto ra na diretso. Okay? Especially kung daghan kay mog load nga ginagamit or daghan kay mog appliances nga gisaksak. Okay, so I think that would be all, class. So I hope na na connect na to, no? From work, then energy, then power, then itong power formula. Power equals current times voltage. So more on this, class, more examples on this, mga problem solving tomorrow na lang. Try to calculate. Tingnan niyo yung inyong mga appliances sa bahay. Ilang wattage ba yan? And considering na 220 volts yung saksakan, pila ang kurente ang ginagamit. And by that, class, you can actually know the reason why na ay mga overload. Kaya kanang wires na to, class, sa mga extension wire, na siya ay meron niyang capacity na current lang na kaya niya. That is why kapag sinaksak natin dyan yung mga malalaking loads, ano ba yung mga malalaking loads sa bahay? Give me an example. Yung kusog mo ka o kurente.
Refrigerator, sir.
Refrigerator, ano pa? TV, hindi kaya. Washing machine, yes. Aircon. Anything, class, na gumagamit ng motor. Kasi yung refrigerator na anay compressor, that's actually a motor. Aircon, gumagamit ng motor. That's why kung maagi mo sa likod na ay magtuyok dira. And then yung inyong anything na ay motor and nagapainit, class, no? So those are the kusog mo ka o kuryente. Now, isaksak na nato, class, especially sa Filipino, no, na mindset na kapag ang extension wire, apat na yung saksakan sa extension wire, o punon dyan na og saksakan. But actually, depende yan sa load and sa wire na inyong ginamit sa extension wire. That's why minsan nagkaka-overload. Okay? So yung load na sinaksak doon sa extension wire is hindi na kaya. If you calculate the current flowing through the extension wire by the loads nga gisaksak, kunwari wattage atong mga load divided by the 220 volts, i-plus to ninyo tanan, okay? Using KCL, di ba? Kirchhoff's current law. You can actually see na yung capacity ng wire hindi kaya. Yun yung application nun. So, not necessarily, class, na may apat na saksakan dyan sa extension wire, sasaksak na natin. Depende talaga sa inyong load. Kung cellphone lang yan, maliit lang yung kain ng kuryente niyan. So, okay lang. Pero mapansin nyo yan, class, pag hinawakan nyo yung extension wire, ano yung mapapansin niyo pag close to overloading na? Pag hinawakan nyo yung wire ng extension wire, muinit. Maksog init. That's your indication na, oops, ang inyong gisaksak dito sa tumoy, sa extension wire, is actually close to overloading. Baka malalaking loads yung inyong sinaksak. Pag mga mabababa lang, okay lang yan. Okay, so, yun lang. I know wala na kayong question kanina, but that's just, discuss lang din natin yan. Okay, so, kung wala na, class, thank you for attending this session, and thank you for your participation. It's very important, your throwing of ideas kanina. So, that makes our discussion more, mas dagat ang matunan. Not only sa ako, class, but also sa inyo. Okay? So, I'll see you, class, tomorrow for our session or for our activity.